Becky.
I'm Sarah, and welcome to our Bickering book review of I'm From Nowhere by Suzanne Myers. So this is about Ren, whose mother is a journalist and has to go to Greenland for a couple of months to write an article. And because she's a single mom and there is no family on the West Coast where they live, Ren has to go to her mother's old boarding school on the East Coast, where she lives in a dorm, so she's living with Honor, India, and Eloise. She meets this cute guy named Nick, who seems to have some sort of romantic entanglement with Honor, so of course there's drama there. And then she also meets Chazzy, who is a musician, finds out that she's a musician, she's really good at playing, but of course, like stereotypical girl, she has super stage fright, so he helps her work on that. And then, all while at the boarding school, something happens to her mom, so the kind of family connections go in flux. She doesn't know kind of like who's going to be her guardian in between the times that her mom's sick, and kind of just trying to figure out like who her dad is and all of that boarding school stuff. Oh, and then there's like this random horse riding thing.
There was a lot with the horses.
That like kind of related, but not like really wasn't the point of the story, so I don't understand why it was there. But that's I'm From Nowhere.
That is.
So I'm going to start from the first page, where my issues started. The author makes this big note about how this horse competition doesn't take place here; it takes place here. But for the purpose of this book, it's going to be here. Blah, blah,
Well,
blah,
it
blah,
used
blah.
to take place where she wanted it to take place. So maybe she'd started writing the idea, and then like they moved it, and you're like, oh well, I already wrote it, so we're just going to pretend.
I mean, but the thing is, like the setting where the horse competition is really had no impact on the plot, so she could have moved it and it wouldn't have been an issue.
Well, then she would have had to have moved everything. Like she would have had to have moved where Honor lived, and like where they might have even had to move where the school was. So
She really wouldn't have had to move where the school was. She would have had to move where Honor was, but like they didn't do anything specific in New York City to make it matter.
But I want to say in the book that it ends up that the horse, that author's note on the first page, we're on the first page before the book even starts, that with it where it says something about how it's now in Kentucky, so you can't really do you might not be able to do like the midnight shows in the coffee bar, or like the wild nights out or the debutante ball, all that. Which is all in the book. Spoiler alert.
Oh yeah, spoiler alert. We should just do that
at the beginning. Yeah.
But the thing is, then like just make up. Like it's your book, it's your world.
Right.
Make up a competition. Or honestly, it really wasn't a big deal to the plot. Like, yeah, Ren learns how to ride and Honor's a great rider, but like you could have made it something else and not had to have that whole note. And I'm like, what? Because the main focus of the book is on Ren's music, and then with a sprinkling of the horse, and I'm like, there's really not a reason to kind of make a big deal out of it.
Yeah, and I honestly, I don't think your average reader would notice it. See, my problem with it from the beginning was it just felt very generic. Like it could have taken place anywhere, anytime. Like there were times where I'm like, is this taking place now? Is it taking place in the 70s? Like when she goes to visit the evil great aunt who's living cloistered out in the middle of this island in the ocean in the winter, it felt very it was written in the 50s, like 50s or 60s. And then other times it would be bam, people have iPhones, so it felt like it was very modern. So it didn't feel, the whole thing felt generic. The characters felt generic, random bad, mean girl. This is the sad girl who's parentless, and so it wasn't anything special.
And the guys weren't all that interesting.
No. Even Chazzy, who becomes the love interest, wasn't all that. It was they're telling you he's interesting, so you should think he's interesting, but he wasn't particularly interesting.
And he wasn't a really good match for her.
No.
I don't know. And I kind of was waiting for him to become the gay best friend, because he really was kind of built like that.
It was kind of like she didn't know what she was doing. And I couldn't tell, so I had an arc, and on the back of the arc, they were talking about the fact that this is her second book, and the first book was really well reviewed by indie press. So was this also an indie book, or is this released through a big publisher? Because it just felt like it needed a little bit of guidance from manuscript to page that it didn't necessarily get.
See, and usually I can kind of see how it could get better, but like this, I think you'd have to bring it back down all the way down to the bare bones in order to build it back up again.
There is a good story there. There is a story of the basics of a good story of this girl who gets sent to boarding school, who then figures out like who she is, and she figures out who she is away from her mother.
I guess, but it's been done. It's
been done
so much.
And to be a good book, you'd have to do something special, and this isn't anything special. And every man that she meets who knew her mother, the first thing she says is the first thing she says to herself is he my father? Do we look alike? When would she have seen him? When is it possible? When, what? And it's like that little bird in the book, Are You My Mother? It was like, Are you my father? Are you my father?
Which was so creepy.
And maybe I don't have that. I mean, I know who my father is. So maybe if you're missing that part of identity, that you really will go around like that. But
I mean,
I don't know.
Probably because it shows up in other books in a very similar way, but
that's the thing, like this book could have been anywhere. The characters could have been out of any book. Even like the mean roommate was like every other mean roommate in every book. There was just nothing.
Mean for like it really kind of came up out of nowhere. Like it didn't like once you figured it out, but it
was like from the first meeting she was mean because she said something about how honor can look through people. And so it's not like she knew, like there was a reason why she should dislike her so much, which the reader finds out later that there is a reason. But then like I don't want to spoil it,
but we have a spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. So Honor's father is also Ren's father.
Which you could see coming from a mile away. I knew in the first 50 pages, I'm like, oh, why am I still reading this? Because I know how it's going to end.
Well, and it seems like Honor knows. Honor's mean to Ren. Honor tries to set her up to get her kicked out of school. But then, Ren has to go spend Thanksgiving at Honor's house because her mother has an accident and can't come home to the United States. And so Honor's father finds out that he's the father, and it's, the greatest thing ever. He has another daughter. Isn't this great? And there's a part in the book where it says that he took Honor and her younger brother into his office and explained to them that Ren was his, and they came out looking dazed and shocked. If they were dazed and shocked, why was Honor so mean from the beginning? If that wasn't why she was being mean.
I mean, but it was obvious from the beginning that she was the love child because of the necklaces.
But then the necklaces, it was they both have the same anchor necklace that came from a great grandmother, and I was like, oh, okay, so yeah, they both came from Honor's father's grandmother or whatever. But then Ren's mother tells her, oh no, it's all because they were all members of this club on the island out in the middle of nowhere in Massachusetts, and we all just had this black diamond necklace. Which, who gives a 14-year-old a black diamond necklace to play with? Particularly, Ren's mother was supposed to be not as financially stable as everybody else. So she was working and taking these jobs in these newspapers to just be able to pay rent. And then she gives her 14-year-old daughter in Ventura this very expensive necklace.
I don't even... but it was hidden, so she wasn't wearing it anyway. It kind of speaks to the fact that maybe she didn't find it as important. She kind of did because it was related to Ren, but
I said, it's...
I don't know. I just don't understand, how...
Even the cover's kind of boring.
Well, and it doesn't relate. The cover is just this girl playing this guitar, but, and I think this is the other thing about this book. It's just about... She tries to make it about so many things, and yes, the music comes forward as being one of the main components, but honestly, it's really not.
Plus, didn't they say something about how she had a tortoiseshell guitar? Her mom bought her a tortoise.
Wasn't it pink?
But wasn't it... I thought it was a tortoise shell made out of an actual tortoise shell.
Oh.
I vaguely remember that. Yeah, it's illegal to buy tortoiseshell guitars.
So her mom's legal. Let's just add that.
At least I'm 99% sure that it's illegal to buy a tortoiseshell guitar in the United States.
The thing, and the thing that I keep coming back to...
And his last name was Gibson, so she was giving her hints.
I mean, the thing is, she asks the father to basically make a space for Ren at the boarding school, yet doesn't think that she's going to need to, kind of mention anything? Like, I just don't get it. I just don't
Well,
get
and she
it.
has nothing in place. She's a single mother living by herself in California. She has this child that she's been raising for the last 16 years, and she has nothing in place in case something happens.
I mean, and she's taking a risk, too. Like, it's
Right.
not like she's just working in an office. Like, no, she's going to Greenland to kind of get in with the environmentalists, and her backup plan is a boarding school that she can't even afford?
And how could she afford the boarding school even for one semester? And you were going to send her to a boarding school for one semester?
That's weird. And
The
wasn't
whole
it?
thing was weird.
Yeah.
It was very much. And plus, I kept thinking, okay, so her mother's family was supposed to be very wealthy, and I guess they kind of cut her off. But both the grandparents were dead, right?
Yeah.
Where'd the money go?
Not to her.
It didn't go in. I mean, none
Yeah.
of it went anywhere. I don't know. But like I said, what is interesting is we're focusing on the backstory of the mother because there's not enough story about Ren to talk about.
And certainly not interesting. Like,
It took me 3 days to read a 290-page book. That's unheard of. And that was 150 of those were powered through yesterday because I had to read it.
I mean, but like, and it wasn't terrible. Like, it didn't
I
feel
just
like
didn't
torture
care.
reading it.
I just didn't
It
care.
just, like, there was nothing there.
I know. It was like Teflon. There was nothing to stick to.
Yeah.
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 Nah.
Like, usually you can kind of hang on to the romance part of it. Couldn't even do that here.
No. And the romance stuff was messy. And then it was Nick or Chazzy or Nick, and she's kissing Chazzy, and then Nick kisses her, and she can't tell anybody because she doesn't care. And then the end of it is done in a way that it's so like Honor says, well, my father wants your mother back, and they're gonna be sisters. So is there gonna be another book? Because I don't care enough to read another book. Please don't.
Well, and the characters are so one-dimensional, and they like flip. Like, Honor just like flipped for no apparent reason.
Right. Plus, there was a lot of parting in this book. Like, there were no real parents. That's another one. It's like there were absolutely no parents in this book.
Yeah.
So, we've actually managed to talk a lot about this book. I'm kind of surprised.
Yeah, because when we talk about it, because there's really a lot of issues with it.
Right. I don't want to say it's a mess, but it wasn't like anything other than, I wouldn't call it not a mess, if that makes sense.
Like, it's not one of those books that I want to like remove from my shelf because it's so terrible. It's just like,
I won't remember it. If anybody ever comes in and asks for a book about boarding school where they play music, I won't remember it at all. It was not memorable.
yeah.
Should we rate it?
Okay.
So I gave it 2 goblins because it was just kind of okay. It wasn't horrible, but it wasn't good.
I'm giving it 1 goblin. Yeah.
It's a goblin-y book.
Goblin kind of book.
Goblin kind of book.
Oh. All right. Well, thanks for joining us. See ya.